Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and a finance trainer from Uplatz. In this class, we will discuss what is the meaning of depreciation. What is the meaning of depreciation? When we use any assets and when we use continuously, then there is the reduction in the value and in the capacity of such machine. Then reduction, wear and tear in the value of machinery or in the value of any capital assets, then it will be considered as depreciation. It will be considered as depreciation. As per the normal provision, the each and every property or each and every assets have its useful life, So the amount of depreciation is calculated in these applicable useful life, means the assets will be depreciated within such useful life, within the useful life of the assets. So in this class we will discuss what is the meaning of depreciation. What is the meaning of depreciation? So number one is charge of depreciation mandatorily. The charges of the depreciation under Income Tax Act is mandatory. If there is any assessee who is engaged in the business, there is a assessee and he is engaged in the business, and in the business he is using different machinery, different plant and machinery and other assets, then such assessee shall be eligible, or he can take the deduction of depreciation in the respect of depreciation. Section 32 of the Section 32 of the Income Tax Act allow the assessee to take the deduction under Section 32 of the Income Tax Act in the respect of depreciation. In the respect of depreciation, the depreciation which is arise, the depreciation which is resulting from the diminishing or exhaustion in the value of certain capital assets. The depreciation will be arise when there is a reduction, when there is a diminishing in the value of capital assets. So section 32 allow the assessee that the assessee can claim the deduction of such a depreciation in the business. They can claim the amount of depreciation in such business under section 32. Explanation 5 of this section provide that explanation 5 of section 32 provide that the deduction of depreciation shall be made compulsorily, means the deduction of depreciation is compulsory whether or not the assessee has claimed the deduction in computing his total income or not. Means if the assessee is not claiming the amount of amount of depreciation, not claiming the deduction of depreciation, but as per the provision of Income Tax Act, it is mandatorily, means it is allowed mandatorily. The deduction under section 32 of depreciation is mandatory. It is available to all the assessee who are engaged in the business and who are using assets, and when there is any use, means when there is any decrease in the value of assets due to the use of these assets, then such amount of depreciation, then it will be considered as depreciation. It will be considered as depreciation, and such depreciation will be allowed as expenses. It is allowed as deduction when we calculate the taxable income of such a business. It is mandatory. Condition to be satisfied for allowed of depreciation. What are the conditions which are required to be satisfied to take or to allow the deduction of depreciation? So the allowance of depreciation, which is regulated by the Rule 5 of the Income Tax Rule 1962, and there are some conditions which are required to be fulfilled to take the reduction of depreciation. Means there are certain conditions which are required to be fulfilled by the assessee by the assessee to take the deduction of depreciation. Number one, the assets in the respect of which the depreciation claim must belong to either of the following category. Means the assets in the respect of which the assessee want to take the reduction of depreciation, then such assets should be related to, then such assets should be belongs to the following category. Means such assets should be the following category. It may be building, it may be machinery, it may be plant, it may be furniture, or is that it may be a, or sorry, it should be a tangible assets. It should be a assets, it should be a tangible assets, it should be a it should be a building, it should be a plant and machinery, it should be a machine. Means if it is building, if it is machine, if it is plant, if it is furniture, means if it is any tangible asset, then the depreciation will be allowed, the depreciation will be allowed. Number two, in the case of intangible assets, in the case of intangible assets, just like know-how, franchisee, copyright, trademark, trademark, or any other business or commercial right of the similar nature which are acquired on or after 1st April 1998. Means any of the intangible asset which is acquired, any of the intangible asset which is acquired on or after 1st April 1998 will also be eligible for the deduction of depreciation. On the intangible asset, we can also claim the deduction of depreciation. The depreciation in the value of any other assets cannot be claimed as deduction from the business income. The depreciation in the value of any other capital asset cannot be claimed as deduction from the business income. Means other than these tangible assets, other than building, other than machine, plant, furniture, and tangible asset, and other than these intangible assets. Means if you want to take the deduction of depreciation on land, land is not depreciable, but you want to take the deduction of depreciation on land, then it is not eligible because it is not covered here. Because it is not covered here. No depreciation is allowable. No depreciation is allowable on the cost of land on which the building is situated. On the land on which a building is situated, the provision of depreciation is not applicable. Means on the value of land, on the cost of land, the depreciation is not applicable. The depreciation is not available because the term building refer only to superstructure but not the land on which it is erected. The term plant, the term means the depreciation is also available on plant. So the term plant is defined under section 43 subsection 3. The plant definition of the plant includes ship. Ship will also be considered as plant. Vehicles, books, scientific apparatus, and surgical equipment which is used by the assessee for the purpose of business and profession. For the purpose of business and profession is that any of the ship, any of the vehicle, any of the machine or equipment which is used by the assessee for the purpose of business, it will be considered as plant. It will be considered as plant, but it does not include tea brushes, livestock, and building or the furniture and fittings. But plant does not include animals. Plant does not include building. Plant does not include furniture and fixtures. It does not include furniture and fixtures. These are different assets. Building, it is a different asset. Livestock, these are the different assets. These are not considered as plant. These are not considered as plant. So the plant, so the plant does not include human body, it does not include stock and trade, it does not include animals, it does not include animals. So the plant means ship, any vehicle, any instrument, and all goods and chattels, fixed and movables, which are used by the person in the case of his business, which is used by the assessee in the case of business. So the plant include part of the plant. The plant includes part of the plants, machine include part of the machinery, and the building include part of the building. Means the asset will also include the part of these particular assets. The part of the building is also, it will also consider as building. The part of the plant, it will also consider the plant. The part of the machinery is also considered the machine. The term building include, the building include road, bridges, walls, tube walls. These all are considered as building. If there is any bridge, then it will be considered as building. Bridge will also be considered as building. Walls will also be considered as building. So number one condition is that the assets should be, the means the depreciation can be claimed only in the respect of these particular categories assets. If the assets fall in the particular category, then you are eligible to take the depreciation, to take the deduction of such depreciation. Number second condition, the asset should be actually used by the assessee for the purpose of business and profession. During the previous year, is that if the assets, if the previous discussed assets are actually, these assets are actually used by the assessee, if these assets are actually used by the assessee during the previous year in the business, during the previous year in the business, then the depreciation will be allowed. Then the depreciation will be allowed. Means the assets should be put to use. The assets should be put to use during the previous year to claim the depreciation. To claim the depreciation, the assets should be put to use. The amount of depreciation allowance is not proportional to the period of use during the previous year. If the asset is acquired during the previous year and it is not put to use, then the depreciation will not be allowed. Then the depreciation will not be allowed. If the asset is purchased and it is not used by the assessee, it is not used by the assessee in the previous year, then the depreciation will not be allowed on such assets. Means that total cost of the asset will be added to the block of assets. To the block of asset, no depreciation will be allowed when the asset is not put to use in the previous year for the purpose of business only, for the purpose of business only. If there is any assets which is purchased by the assessee and it is used by the assessee for the period of less than 180 days, if there is any assessee, he has purchased the assets and such assets is used by the assessee for the period of less than 180 days, means it is put to use by the assessee in the previous year, but he used it only for the period of which is less than 180 days, then the depreciation allowed, but up to 50%. 50% depreciation will be allowed. The 50% depreciation will be allowed where the asset is acquired by the assessee. When there is any asset which is acquired by the assessee and during the previous year he put to use it for the purpose of business and profession for the period which is less than 180 days, for the period of less than 180 days, then the depreciation shall be allowed at 50%. Then the depreciation shall be allowed at 50%, 50% of allowable depreciation according to the percentage which is prescribed in the respect of block of assets. Means for the example, Mr. Ram, he purchased assets on 1st October 2019, means October to March, October, November, December, January, February, March, means we can take it is less than, so it will be, it is purchased in November, so it is less than 180 days, less than 180 days. So in this situation, the rate of depreciation means normal, the rate of depreciation is 10%. So only allowable depreciation will be 50% of 10. 50% of 10% means 5% will be allowable depreciation. Means the deduction is allowable only for the 50%, only for the 50% of the rate which is defined under the Income Tax Act. Under the Income Tax Act. So if the asset is used, if the asset is put to use for the more than 180 days, then full depreciation will be allowed. But if it is used less than 180 days, then the 50% of depreciation will be allowed. 50% will be allowed. Depreciation would be allowable to the owner in the respect of assets who is actually utilized. Means that depreciation would be allowable to the owner it even in the respect of asset which is actually worked or utilized by the another person. Means if there is any asset which is used by the lessee, then but the depreciation is allowable to the lessor, because the depreciation is allowable only to the owner of the assets. Owner of the assets. The deduction on the account of depreciation would be allowed under this section to the owner. To the owner who has let out hire his building, machinery, plant, furniture, provided that letting out of such assets is the business of the assets. So, in other words, where the letting out of such assets does not constitute a business of the assets, then the depreciation, then a reduction on the account of depreciation would still be allowed under section 74 subsection 2 is that if there is any assessee let out any plant and machinery, any building, and he is claiming the depreciation as his business activity, then it will be allowed a reduction under section 32. But if the assessee does not have the letting out business, then he will also claim the depreciation under section 57 subsection 2 under section 57 2. But the depreciation is mainly available, the depreciation is mainly available to the owner only. To the owner means the owner will claim he is eligible to claim the depreciation. Use include passive use in certain circumstances. Use includes passive use in the certain circumstances. To claim the depreciation, there is also one of the condition that the asset should be used for the purpose of business. If it is in use, if it is put to use, if it is put to use in the business and profession, then depreciation is allowed. It is put to use, not ready to use. It is put to use means it is actually used by the assessee. However, in certain circumstances, courts has held that the assets can be said to be used even when it is keep ready for use. Means in some circumstances, court decide that if the asset is ready to use, then it will be considered as put to use. Then it will be considered as put to use. For the example, standby equipment and the fire extinguishment, they can be capitalized. They can be capitalized when they are ready to use. If they are ready to use, if there is any fire extinguishment, if there is any equipment, standby equipment, then when it is ready to use, then it will be capitalized or the depreciation can be claimed. The depreciation can be claimed. If there is any machinery spares, if there is any machinery spare parts which are used only in the connection with an item of the tangible assets, tangible fixed assets, and their use is expected to be irregular. The use is irregular, then it is to be capitalized. Means the person has the spare parts of machinery. The spare parts of machinery will not be used regularly, it will not be used regularly, but these are capitalized. Hence, in such case, the term use embeds both active use as well as passive. Means the meaning of use, if it is directly used means it is actively used, then it will also be considered as use. If it is passively used, then it will also be considered as use. But the use should be made only for the purpose of business and profession. If it is used in the business and profession, then the depreciation will be allowed. Then the depreciation will be allowed. Third condition, the assessee must own the asset wholly or partly. The assessee must own the assets wholly or partly if he want to take the deduction of depreciation. Is that if there is any building, then the assessee must own such building, not on loan, not land. He should be the owner of such building. He should be the owner of such building. If he is the owner of such building, then he will be eligible to take the depreciation, to take the reduction of the depreciation in the respect of such building. In such case, the assessee should be lease of the land on which the building stand, and the lease deed must provide that the building will belong to the lessor on the land upon the expiry of period of lessee. Thus, no depreciation. So, in the respect of those assets, if there is any assessee, the assessee, he is the lessee of the land, means the land is on lease, the land is on lease on which the building stand, and the lease deed provide that the building which is belong to the lessor of the land upon the expiry of the period. In this situation, no depreciation will be available to the assessee. Means the assessee in the respect of such a building, in the respect of such assets, he will not eligible to take the deduction of depreciation. To take the deduction of depreciation. Thus, no depreciation will be allowed to an assessee in the respect of an asset which does not own but only use and hire for the purpose of business. If there is any asset which is used by the assessee, means if he has taken it on higher purpose only for the use for business, then the depreciation will not be allowed. Means that tenant of the assets cannot claim the depreciation. Only owner will be eligible to take the deduction of depreciation. Only the owner. Whether it is partly owned by him, whether it is fully owned by him, but he should be the owner of such property. It should be owner of the property, as such property is required to be used only for the purpose of building, only for the purpose of business and profession. It should be used only for the purpose of business and profession. So the owner can claim the depreciation. So on the basis of this, we have understand what is depreciation and what are the conditions to take the deduction of depreciation under the Income Tax Act. Number one, only for the specific asset, means only the specific category of the asset the depreciation is available. It is tangible asset and the intangible asset. Other than these specific assets, no depreciation is available. The asset should be put to use. It should be properly put to use. In the case of business, it should be used in business. Number three, the property, the depreciation is allowed only to the owner of such property. It will be available, the reduction of depreciation will be available only to the owner of the property, not to the tenant, not to the lessee of such property. If all these conditions are satisfied, then the assessee shall be eligible to take the deduction of depreciation as per section 32. As per section 32, the assessee shall be eligible to take the deduction of depreciation. To take the deduction of depreciation. So, on the basis of such discussion, we have understand about the basic concept of depreciation. What is depreciation and what are the conditions to claim the deduction of depreciation? So kindly consider all the classes of this chapter so that you can properly understand each and every concept properly. Thank you so much for watching this video. Other provision which is related to depreciation we will discuss in our another class. Kindly consider all the classes. Thank you so much. Bye bye.